Hey, welcome everyone to another episode of FitFam. This is Miss Natural Olympia Hilary,
And this is Doug, the formulator.
and we have a table full of fun stuff today. Before we get started, though, very important.
Yes, please like and subscribe and hit the bell to make sure you get notified every time we have another podcast.
Absolutely, and that's really key. I think a lot of people ask us when the next podcast is coming out, and if you click on the little bell after you subscribe, then it gives you a little notice. Hey, they just came out the new one, and a lot of them are pretty timely because we have different things we're talking about coming up, seminars and different
hmm
events and stuff. So definitely want to do that. Also, check out the link in the descriptions of each episode because it'll go to different things coming up, like the seminars or citations to some of the research studies, things like that. So, boom, got that out of the way. Now, why in the world do we have all this soda pop?
It'd be really fun to just record Doug's face every time I come up with an idea for a podcast. And then the execution of the podcast, which usually for me involves drinks or food of some sort, right?
That's it.
If drinks or food are involved, you know that I was the idea maker behind it.
Yeah. And if there's a lot of, we'll just flow and we'll
Yeah.
versus very
Yeah,
strict on what we
I'm
do
very
need to do.
organized in other parts of our lives, but with the podcast, I'm like, let's just roll with it.
I
Let's just
like
see
it.
what comes up. And I like that because what I get to do is I get to ask all the questions and Doug gets to come up with all the
Well,
answers.
we'll see. We'll see.
So,
Well, but this is exciting because honestly, I think, for both of us, right? For decades working with people and even ourselves, the thing that always comes up is what can I drink?
well,
And
yeah, what can I drink? But also, I think for most of us or most Americans or a lot of Americans, we like the fizzy stuff,
yeah,
right? We just like the fizzy stuff. And so I think that's kind of where we're gonna wrap this one around the fizzy drinks and really get into the nitty-gritty. And you can say, nope, sorry, no matter what, it's still water and you're not having any, or maybe we can compromise. So
absolutely. So this is the fizzy drink episode.
fizzy drink episode, but also we're going to talk about, and we've talked about it in the past, but we're also going to talk about the difference between, a regular soda versus a diet soda, and then all of the different energy drinks. And we're going to throw in there some different, like probiotic drinks and these healthy sodas so that we can decipher.
There are some
Yeah.
healthy fizzies. So
Yeah.
let's
So
go. Why don't
let's
we
get after it. Okay.
let's start with the basics, the old school sodas, your Coke, your Pepsi, Mountain Dew, right?
Yeah, but before we get into that, can you tell me about carbonic acid and is it really that bad? On the scale of things that are bad for us, give
Well,
me a number.
so the number would be out of 10, probably 8 out of 10. And it kind of goes back to the concept, though. Like when we go back to the very basics of those of you that are over 35, 40, when you remember growing up and it was just Coke, Pepsi, Dr. Pepper, all those things, and everything kind of came from that. What was the basis of fizz, right? Of the beginning? And it had to do with carbonic or phosphoric acid. And it's these acids that make the fizz and the bubbly and that taste that so many people have got addicted to. And carbonic acid or phosphoric acid, when
They're
you
the
dr-
same.
when you drink it, they're not the same, but it has the same reaction in the body.
Okay.
Um, and we'll talk about one exception to that from nature, but this acid that's synthetically created, that's made in the lab, what it does is it pulls minerals from the body, mainly calcium. So it pulls it from the bones. A lot of great research on fizzy drinks, carbonated drinks, pulling calcium, and especially, gosh, as we age and women, even a whole nother level. That's the worst thing you want to do is pull calcium out of the bones
Okay.
because calcium has more benefits and it does more in the body at a cellular level than just with the bones. But if you're pulling it out, you're using it, then your body can't use the calcium from other things like nerve impulses and be able to the flow and the synapse between the nerves. In other words, the actual communication
Okay.
throughout the body. So carbonic and phosphoric acid is the problem, especially when it's made synthetically. And that's going to hold true through sodas, diet sodas, alcohol, right? All of that is carbonated. And so carbonation is a problem.
Okay. Well, I'm still not sold, but no, I am. But I was going to say, like, what if, and then also, does it have any effect on gut? Just the carbonic acid alone. That question.
Absolutely. What it does is it actually can destroy the friendly bacteria just because of the acidity,
Okay.
right? And then when you add in some of these synthetic sugars and other sugars with the acid, then it's a whole nother ball game because pathogenic bacteria, the guys we want to keep out of the gut,
Right.
they eat one thing,
Sugar.
sugar. And
Okay.
so when we add sugar with acid, we
Okay.
cause problems in the gut.
What if I am going to stay on top of my calcium intake, an
Mhm.
organic calcium, an amino acid calcium? Okay. If I'm going to stay on top of that and I've got all the healthy, kombuchas and
You're taking your probiotic
sauerkraut and I
supplements.
take my probiotics, can I have it once in a while?
So you can have anything you want once in a while. The question is how much damage is this going to
Right.
do, right? So it really comes down to if you're trying to make progress with your gut, with your overall health, you're going to stop that progress. Now, no, now you might not go major backwards, but yet you're not
Okay.
improving, right? And so the key is this. Let's give a little bit. The give is
Okay.
this is that your body has kidneys and it has a liver. And if you're living a clean lifestyle, once in a while, when you have that soda or that treat or whatever it
Hmm.
might be, your body will just absolutely blow through it, right? Go through and take care of it, neutralize it if you would, or use it and kick in and your liver enzymes kick in just a little bit more. Everything your body's meant to do that. Your body's meant to get rid of toxins. And so I would say that for someone that is like, look, I'm not going to go my entire life without sodas. I'm not going to go my entire life without the desserts and all these things. Great. Then plan it and have it be where it's a treat and let your body's natural detoxifiers take care of it and you're good to go.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So I'm gonna grab some actual sodas here. Okay. So this one is gross to me. I hate Mountain Dew, but I feel like so many people love Mountain Dew. This is a 16-ounce Mountain Dew. There is 230 calories in this drink.
Okay.
Okay. So this is almost a meal amount, right?
Right.
And it has 62 grams of carbs, all from the 62 total sugars
Yeah. So
that are in it.
62 grams sugar. So those of you that have downloaded the app or Healthy Habits Tracker, and you see in there that, for 21-day challenge or 63-day challenge, we want you to limit the amount of sugar to 50 grams a day. We're actually being nice. 50 grams of sugar is actually really pushing it as far as being able to reach optimal health and vitality and energy and, cognitive thinking being at a high level. And you're talking one drink going way above the 50. And if I really had my way, it'd be like, really, you should keep it under 25, 30 max a day. So,
Mhm.
so 50 is already pushing it. You're well over that with it with a Mountain Dew. And that's the problem
Okay.
is that just from the sugar content, and then on top of that, you add the carbonic or the phosphoric acid, it's an acidic sugar. That's when you got problems. Highly recommend staying away from the combo of those two.
So the sugar is coming from high fructose corn syrup.
And that's the latest research, latest meaning even the last 20 years of research showing that high fructose corn syrup is even more damaging to the body than just even basic sugar.
So if I had the option with this Pepsi, which I think you do a lot of the times, right?
Mhm.
In the convenience stores that you can grab the real sugar ones. Are you doing yourself favors by doing that?
So when we're talking about the best of the bad, right? So I want to make sure people say, well, hey, they said that it's better to have the sugar over the corn syrup. It is, but it's still bad. It's the better of the bad. So
Okay.
um, there's a lot of people in our world that, extremely healthy, living, and once in a while they'll have a soda, but they make a point of only getting a Pepsi from Mexico or a Coke from Mexico because it's just, they only use the cane sugar, right? They don't use the corn syrups and stuff like that. So absolutely, it is a better of the bad. If you're going to have a soda, no matter what, especially just a classic soda, right? Your Pepsi, Coke, all that, you want to make sure that it's just straight sugar, not the high fructose corn syrup, for
Okay, what
sure.
about the caramel color?
So the caramel color is a different ballgame. It used to be that the caramel color came from caramel itself, and now it's coming from an actual dye.
Okay.
So you want to stay away from that. The best thing you can do is the closer you can get to an original formula when it comes to Pepsi, Coke, and those things, the better off you are, believe it or not, because we haven't added the synthetics of the other chemicals to it. We haven't added the high fructose corn syrup and those things back in the day. And so the closer you can get to that, if you're going to have a soda, an OG soda, right? The Pepsi, Mountain Dew, Coke, Dr. Pepper would be to make sure that it has the pure cane sugar as the sweetener.
Okay, so also just to mention, there is a yellow 5 in a Mountain Dew. So you got that
So,
artificial color as well.
right.
Okay, so even like the Sprite, which now you know you don't have any of the artificial colors, you're still looking at this 20 ounce, you're still looking at 64 grams of sugar
Yeah.
from high fructose corn syrup.
Way more than you should be having in a day. Like I
Way
said,
more.
50 is should be your max, and that should be for the entire day's content of sugar minus fresh fruit. And so that's already, over and above.
Okay, well then, Doug, how about I just go with this nice little diet soda?
And this is a big argument, and it's so funny because I hear people that are even, PhDs in nutrition and that have this argument many times that are like, oh, of course, diet soda is better for you because, we don't really believe the aspartame and sucralose is all that bad. And check out the calories. If you have someone consuming, 200 calories versus only 0 calories, then of course you want to go the 0 calorie route because they're not going to gain all this weight. And there is truth that you want to look at your calories, right? You don't want to go over your calorie surplus for the day. But I'm going to make a statement right now that's really going to cause some issues with a few of my colleagues, but this is what I believe with all my heart. And
Okay.
that is this: it's like a lot of the people in our space, right? The PhDs and some of the high level nutritionists and that, we were all on the same page for a lot of years. And all of a sudden, I see some of them veer off on this subject when they're perfectly spot on all the other nutritional
Okay.
concepts, right?
Right.
But then when it comes to aspartame
I've noticed that.
and sucralose, they're like, oh, it's good for you. And they'll go on this argument of why it's not so bad. And I'm sitting there reading the research study showing that sucralose and aspartame destroy the friendly bacteria at high levels, and they're arguing against it. And then all of a sudden, a few months ago, we see that a lot of people have been busted because the pharmaceutical and big food companies, so the companies that are selling these aspartame, sucralose laden foods, are paying the influencers and a lot of them, the nutritionists, registered dietitians, to speak on social media that these things aren't that bad. So now people are saying, well, this nutritionist said this,
Yeah.
right? And I'm like, what in the world's going on? And it comes back to money.
Well,
So I'm
also,
going to call them out on that. The bottom line is the more synthetic an ingredient, so the more synthetics are in a soda for this topic, the worse it is for you, period.
well, and we've also talked about that was pretty definitive. We've also talked about the dose determines the poison. And so because oftentimes we're getting more and more aspartames and sucraloses and all of that in our diet anyways, it's really an accumulation factor as well, right?
Absolutely. And I think that that's a really good point you make is that if you're watching your diet and you're not taking in any aspartame, any sucralose, any of these things into your diet, and once in a while there's some that sneaks in through a soda, and that is that the worst thing in the world? Probably not. It is the accumulation and it's the consistency. Consistency is the key.
I
Whatever you
love
consistently eat
that.
and drink, that's going to cause either the benefit or the damage. It's just that most people will say, okay, they said once in a while, but the once in a while is once a day or 3 times a week.
Right.
When we're talking like once a month or 2, like if
Right.
you want to know really what the rule should be, that's really what it should
You
be.
know what's funny about that? That is so off the topic, which is strange for me, really. We were in bed last night, and one of the few times we actually flipped on the TV before going to bed. I would do it all the time. This guy won't let me. But anyways, and we saw a commercial with burger and fries, and what did I say?
Yeah, how long's it been since I had burger
How
and
long
fries?
has it been since we've had a burger and fries? And he's like, do you want one? And I'm like, well, yeah, I'd like to plan for one. So that's what we do. He says, okay, when's the date? And then we'll pick
It's
a
like
date.
September 30th we planned or
Yeah.
something
So
like
it's
that.
like September 30th, and that's when we'll have our burger, and which makes it kind of cool and exciting, to be honest, right?
Yeah,
It makes it
absolutely.
like fun. Okay, so let's get back on topic.
So let's go to the diet real quick. The
Okay.
difference between the diet sodas that are zero calorie or low calorie versus the regular sodas is that they're taking out the high fructose corn syrups and that are bad for you, that add a lot of calories, and they're replacing it with a synthetic sugar, a sucralose aspartame type sugar. And yes, it's better to have less calories if you're eating over your surplus, right? Of course,
Right.
but the damaging effects of consistently taking in the synthetic sugars cannot be overlooked, and it's terrible what's happening. Even back in the 1990s, uh, a classmate at ASU did their master's degree thesis on aspartame, and they looked at the Gulf War and stuff, and they saw that the damage to the brain of people that consume drinks with aspartame was so huge, and they published this study, and it's hard to find now. And what happened was they were shipping over the Diet Cokes and Diet Pepsis over to the Middle East where the war was going on, and it was out in the sun a lot.
Wow.
And the heat, because at actual 98 degrees, this aspartame is being converted into more of a formaldehyde molecule that is causing this damage and getting past the blood-brain barrier. And if you think about it, you're like, well, hey, we don't put our sodas out, in the heat and that very often. Wait a second, your body temperature is already at that. So if your body already just heating up this aspartame is creating this formaldehyde chemical, and it's straight chemistry, and it's getting through the blood-brain barrier, which we know it does, or it's causing damage to the gut, we have major problems. So again, like you said, the dose determines
Determines
the
the poison.
poison.
Right.
Is small dose, the body's going to get rid of it. It's still a poison,
Right.
right? But consistently doing it is a big issue. So stay away from aspartame sucralose. I will absolutely preach that till the end because we're not bought out by the big food companies like I'm afraid a lot of my colleagues are. So that's it. So you understand the difference between diet and regular. Personally, if you're going to have a soda, I would rather you make sure that your caloric intake's not above what it's supposed to be and work in that Pepsi,
Really?
right?
Okay.
Have that be your, I understand it's 200 calories or whatever it might be. Hopefully you're not drinking the whole thing, but I would rather you do that than put the poison in your body from the
Interesting.
diet soda. And I know that we'll get argument both ways on that. I'm just giving you my opinion on it based on the
Again,
research, and I'm right. Okay.
there we go. Okay. All right. So now these have been a hot topic lately. So the Poppi drinks, and these they're kind of sold as
We
or
get asked this a lot.
promoted as prebiotic soda. Okay. So the ingredients in this one
What's a
is
prebiotic?
um, it's what feeds the probiotics.
Yeah, so think about that for a second. I'm a fan of a prebiotic, but really what they're talking about is a food for the probiotic. And that's things like inulin, like different fibers, the special type of fibers called oligosaccharides. It's in things like juice of artichoke, things like that.
Hmm.
So I'm all fan of it, but don't get caught up. It's not a probiotic. It's the things that are good that help probiotics grow and thrive in the gut. But if you throw it in there with sugar, does it have any sugar in it?
Well, we're going to talk about it
Okay.
because I think this is a decent option.
All right.
Okay. That's what I'm thinking. And definitely a decent option for treats when a child, when you're trying to wean your kids off soda,
Mhm.
or maybe every once in a while it's used as, I don't know, treat. So the ingredients: sparkling water, organic cane sugar, organic apple cider vinegar, natural flavors, organic agave inulin, lemon juice, strawberry juice, stevia concentrate.
So the inulin is what the prebiotic is. I'm a fan of that. That's actually some good ingredients, right? The only thing is it naturally carbonated or is that carbonated water like a normal carbonic acid?
Yeah.
It's kind
It
of
just says
tough for
sparkling
that.
water.
So,
Um, yeah.
and you don't really know from that. But that's a great group of ingredients. I would say absolutely that's a much better drink, and I wouldn't mind our grandchildren and stuff having that based on those ingredients.
Okay, and you're
Sure,
looking at
also.
about 20 to 25 calories per can.
Not bad at all.
So not bad at all. And that one is Poppi. I think they might be going through a lawsuit or something because of the whole prebiotic stance. I don't know. That pretend I didn't say that because I'm not positive on it. Okay, now Olipop has been around, I feel like, a little bit longer than the Poppi drinks. And so this one is a Dr. Goodwin, which I think, there you go. Which I think would be like a Dr. Pepper maybe substitute. So this one has a lot more ingredients in it. And then this one, of course, has a little bit of caffeine. So for one can of these, you're looking at 45 calories.
Not bad.
But also, a total of 3 sugars and a total of 2 sugars with this one. But let's see, carbonated water, cassava root fiber, chicory root inulin, Jerusalem artichoke. So,
The prebiotics.
yep, you've actually got some good ones in here.
The cactus, awesome.
Marshmallow root.
Good.
Word?
Calendula, flour.
Yep. So allulose, how do we feel about allulose?
Better than other sugars for sure.
Okay. And then cassava root syrup. We've got prune juice. What do we think?
Green tea, caffeine. Yeah, I like that also. I'm not familiar with that one until now, and I like the ingredients. So if you're looking at a soda for a carbonation standpoint, so far for sure, Olipop and this, what do you call it? Poppi. Poppi is a good way to go.
Okay, so that's good to know. I have tried a few of the Olipops, and I think they're good. I don't think they're Pepsi caliber, but they're good. They're good. They're a good substitute.
Should we jump to energy drinks?
Okay, well, before we jump to energy drinks, which I would love to do, because we're going to do that, I want your take because I feel like these are the newest thing. They are carbonated electrolyte waters, okay? And I am telling you, they are so tasty. And I have a couple of questions about it. Both my sister and my daughter told me about them. Take a sip of this.
That is not bad tasting at all. Definitely can taste the salt in it, huh?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so
you
it
can.
definitely tastes like a electrolyte.
Okay, so give us your breakdown on these.
So I'm looking at it for the first time, and we're starting off again with carbonation, right? So
Right.
no matter what, we're talking an acid to the body. So for you to take this as an electrolyte drink, oh, that's my electrolyte. You're acidifying the gut, and that's not the healthiest way to take your electrolytes in. Okay,
Okay.
so just right off the bat, but let's take that away. So we have the salt from sodium chloride, malic acid, magnesium malate. Not my favorite form of magnesium, but it's a decent one. Magnesium glycinate is the best form, so natural organic form. Natural watermelon flavor, stevia leaf, which I'm a big fan of stevia. I know some people aren't, but
Yeah,
I'm
because
a big fan of
these you're at five calories.
Mhm.
So
So really, with the exception of the carbonation, if you're going to have carbonation, that actually is not a bad way to go. I definitely wouldn't recommend more than one of them a day, just because you are at a pretty high level of the electrolytes, and because the electrolytes are in the form that they
that was my
are,
question.
you want to be somewhat careful because they're not the best form
Okay.
of sodium, magnesium that's possible in the body.
And
But out of everything you showed, those three, the Poppi, what was
yeah,
that one?
Poppi, Olipop.
Olipop,
So those are for
and then
kids, but
the
then
Elementees is
Elementary maybe
decent too.
for adults
Sure.
more. And I feel like electrolytes and electrolyte drinks are such a hot topic, and everybody's having. There's too much though. There's too much of a good thing, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's like, hey, everyone needs more sodium and potassium. Look, especially in Arizona when in the heat, right? I'm a huge fan of electrolytes. Always been a huge fan of electrolytes, even sodium. But again, the dose determines the poison. We want to limit that. So for people to drink them each day, like 2 or 3 of those, it would be crazy. Or if you drink that and other electrolytes, it's
It's too much.
probably too much, unless
Okay.
you're a person that's running 2, 3 hours a day of real heavy sweating and that, from workout or your job.
Okay, perfect. I love that answer. Okay, now let's get into the energy drinks.
Okay.
So as I was kind of doing a little bit of research for this, I know I did a little bit of research. I found that Red Bull seems to be the top sold one in
For sure.
the
In the world.
US. Is it the world? It
It's
might
the
be the
world.
world, but yeah, because I think that was the one Marley confirmed.
And
that he was an
marketing
actor.
101, because they don't sell sodas, right? They sell the experience, and they sell the lifestyle of extreme, and that's just great. Great
Yeah, and
marketing.
I've heard Doug say more than once his least favorite energy drink is a Red Bull. But there are so many energy drinks on the market,
Mhm.
okay? And wow, thanks.
Mhm.
And there's so many energy drinks. I think there's some that would rival your hatred against them, to be honest. But let's just dive into it,
Well,
okay?
let's
So
talk about the number one reason it's the top of the list of the bad that I think you should avoid Red Bulls at all costs. is because the combination of the ingredients in Red Bull makes it so that it's the actual number one cause of kidney stones amongst carbonated drinks in the world. And we have friends, you probably know of people that drink Red Bulls that have got kidney stones out of the blue. Extremely healthy people. We know personally of a few, a
We
family
do
member,
actually, yeah.
and that everything else perfect, and then all of a sudden getting kidney stones that basically said the most painful thing they've ever had in their life, and it was strictly from Red Bull, not even other energy drinks. And so Red Bull's combination of their red dye and their acidity, it's a real interesting combination. It causes kidney stones. And if you're halfway prone to it at all, or your diet is such that is acidic anyways, with some processed foods, a lot of high processed foods, and the chemicals that are used in highly processing the foods, then you're setting yourself up for kidney stones, which again, we've had people that have had, been shot before and stabbed and different things like that. And they're like, no, that doesn't compare as far as pain as to a kidney stone.
Well, I
So
don't know that I see
I'm a
red
big,
dye in
big
there. Do
fan.
you see red dye in there?
So what's interesting is that Red Bull itself has gone through some changes, but they've still worked in
I mean, it says
their
colors, but
their dye into it, and they always fight with the government as far as the claims on the label. Like right now, the latest thing that's going around is B12, right? That B12 cobalamin, Cobalamin, cobalamin is that's what B12 is people are being informed that you shouldn't have cobalamin bound with cyanide called cyanocobalamin, right? And they're right. And so a lot of these companies are not putting what form of B12 are on their
and
labels.
it's actually listed on the
On
Monster.
Monsters, it is because you're supposed to list it, but on Red Bull, you'll notice now it says B12 and they're not saying where it's coming from, and you go and search for it. The bottom line is if you're not using cyanocobalamin, the absolute cheapest, worst form of B12 on the planet, because you're mixing cyanide with cobalamin, and I know there's arguments, a different molecule, it's taking away oxygen. Right now, if you took in cyanide, how you would die would be your cells suffocate themselves. So why would you add a molecule that actually pulls oxygen to B12? It's absolutely crazy. It's just a byproduct in the processing food industry, and so it's easy and cheap. So I'm real leery of Red Bull
And
for
then
those reasons.
also, like
They
this
try to
Red
hide
Bull
stuff.
has 38 sugars in it. I mean, you also have the one that is sugar free, but same concept as the other sodas.
Right, aspartame.
And I would say probably the number one thing that we would advise parents to help with their children and their teenagers to eliminate would be energy drinks, don't you think?
Oh, 100%. You know, if you had to choose between all of these carbonated drinks you have out there, like which one should you eliminate first to start working your way down? I'd eliminate energy drinks, absolutely, positively. And if you have to have something with energy in it, there's non-carbonated. There's still some sugar in them, but they have some like caffeine. I'd still even switch it to that from the carbonated caffeines with the synthetic ingredients. Red Bull shouldn't be an option. A lot of these others, again, just look at them, see the sugar content, see the aspartame, sucralose that's in a lot of
Well,
them.
and we always talk about the order of dominance, like the order of the ingredients in which the ingredients that there's the most of are at the front and least at the bottom. Well, in a lot of these, sucralose, the fake sugars are really high
Really
up
high.
on the list, which means there's more of it in there.
Right, and what happened was there was a few companies that came along saying, "Hey, look, when they first started coming out with sucralose and aspartame, they were putting just small amounts in, just enough to keep it sweet and say that it's sugar-free. It's just synthetic sugar." And then you had some companies come along, like Ghost and a few others, said, "Hey, what if we just load it with sucralose? People aren't seem to understand that it's bad for you, so let's load tremendous amounts of sucralose in it, create this crazy sweet flavor." And they went nuts, right?
Yeah,
People started buying them like crazy. And so now you'll see it at the top when it used to be at the bottom,
right.
and it's just loaded with this synthetic sugar, extremely bad. So let's go to the good choices.
Okay, so I love me kombucha, kavita. I like the fermented drinks out there. Now, this one I found today, and it's got the organic raw kombucha, okay, the filtered, and it's created with the filtered water, cane sugar, black tea, green tea, live cultures. So that combination is what gives it the fizz,
Right.
correct?
So if you drink it, you're like, oh, it's like carbonated, right? And Well, time out. You have the taste of carbonation, but yet there's no carbonated water in it. How does it do it? This is the best way to get fizz in the
Okay.
planet.
Now,
Can I explain how it happens?
yeah.
Okay.
Explain how that happens, and then I have a question.
All right. So it goes through the fermentation process. Kombucha is fermented. So there's really no need to add carbonated water to it, right? It's already, if it's fermented properly, it's going to have that fizzy taste because when yeast consumes the sugar, the fermentation process, it produces something called carbon dioxide or CO2, bubbles. And it's this natural um, fermentation, carbonation process that doesn't create the acidity that the synthetic carbonic and phosphoric acids create. So if you have to have the fizz, a kombucha that doesn't have carbonated water, that it's natural like this one, is the way to go.
Okay, but here's my question. In
Okay.
this one alone, 19 sugars. Okay, so the kombucha itself is created with the cane sugar and the teas, and I get that whole process. And then blue spirulina, coconut flavor, vanilla flavor, lemongrass extract, and the probiotic is the bacillus. Uh, I don't, is that too much sugar?
Well, again, if we're looking to limit our sugar intake to 50 a day,
Yeah,
right, then that's close to half if you drink the whole thing. And
right.
so it's still, you're counting your sugars. You're still counting them because more sugar was added than what was just used in the fermentation. In the fermentation, the sugar's used up. But what is in addition to that is still sugar. So you want to count the sugars in it and have that be part of what you've chosen to consume that has sugar.
Yeah, I've always in the past tried to, when I have a kombucha or Kavita, one of these probiotic waters, I usually try to keep the sugars at 10 or less. That's kind of my goal with that. But, anyways, so this one is sparkling water. It's kefir culture, it's coconut water, apple cider vinegar, apple juice concentrate, strawberry juice concentrate. And then, of course, the probiotics. So, and then stevia in it. So, this one is also really good, I feel, but, like, it does have the sparkling water. But it's
Yes.
like you said, is it added sparkling water or is it naturally occurring?
I think that was naturally occurring, it'd be like the other one that you had,
Okay,
right? That
yeah, it
said
would
it.
speak it that way.
So, but this is still much better than a soda because you're getting the added benefit of a fermented drink with it. So I would say that number one, pull number one out, that one kombucha. I think that's by far the best choice right here. And this one is Valley Isle out of Maui, Hawaii, called Blue Hawaii,
But there's many
right?
kombucha that you can get that would probably be
Yeah, just make
the
sure
same.
that it's the
But
same.
I think it's when it doesn't list the sparkling
Carbonated.
water at the beginning, and it's just talking about the process itself, the ingredients within the process is the
Best way to
goal.
go,
But the
right?
Kavitas are okay.
And so the ultimate is water. But if you have to have some taste to it, this is my favorite. And I'm a little funny about this, but this is a glass bottle Voss. So I'm really big on glass. Guys, come to the super seminar September 26th through 29th. We have some talks to talk about in-depth research on the absolute detrimental effects of the plastics of the PUFAs that we call them, forever chemicals, the phthalates. So you don't have to take my word for it, but we do know that glass is better than plastic because of the chemicals. And so there's a few waters that you can get in
Okay.
glass.
All right.
And then you take glutathione, the main antioxidant of the body, is called a master antioxidant, with electrolytes, but the electrolytes organic magnesium glycinate, right? Pink sea salt for the sodium. And you take that with the glutathione and you put it in, and now you have a tang flavored, orange flavored drink that has a little bit of fizz because it's an effervescent,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you get all of the organic electrolytes with it. You have the water, you don't have any of the plastics being absorbed into it, and you get flavor. That's my answer for
There you go.
flavored drinks.
Well, this one was fun. I liked this one. It was really informative. I like the different knowledge between the regular sodas, the diet sodas, and then the healthier version sodas,
Mhm.
and all the things in between. So
So
awesome.
let us know what your favorite treat drink is. We'd love going back on YouTube and seeing what people's comments are, along with maybe what you have done to help wean your kids off of energy drinks and eventually sodas very often. A lot of you have had some great tips that we've learned from over the years that you're doing in the families to be able to reduce the intake of carbonation, of caffeine, of acidity,
Sure.
sugar. And so I'd love to hear that. As always, this is Miss Natural Olympia Hillary.
And this is Doug the Formulator, and don't forget to like and subscribe.
Bye bye.
See ya.